Hey friends, welcome to the As You Go Network. My name is Joshua Brown, the pressure washing pastor, and today we have an incredible guest that's going to share their story on starting a side hustle and turning it into a full-blown thriving business inside the trades. And if you've been trying to figure out what type of business you want to start and scale, I want you to stick around for the very end. I'm going to invite you to a free live event where you can hear of 20 businesses that you can start today, and whether or not your story, your skills, and your proximity, and when we use the word proximity, your location, makes sense for that business. Stick around to the very end and we'll get into it then. But for now, let's get into the show. Jeremy, welcome out.
Hey, Josh, appreciate you for having me.
Absolutely. I'd like for you to take our listeners back before you opened your business. What was the thought that led you to this startup?
Oh, it's pretty easy. This is my 5th year washing. I always go by wash years for some reason because I think I started this in 2021. So it doesn't really feel like 5 years when I think, I'm like, well, it's 21, it's 25, but we've been washing 5 years. So I started in 2020. I don't know if you may know this, but my background's as a respiratory therapist. So I've worked I worked in the height of COVID, worked before COVID, and kind of got tired and burnt out on that life as far as working extra overtime, 5 and 6, 7 days a week sometimes. I said, man, there's got to be something I can do. And I was driving an hour and a half each way, and so there's got to be something that I can do. And it started out, man, as me looking at businesses. I was like, well, I can cut grass. I said, everybody cuts grass. It's always being cut. People don't want to do it. They'll pay you to do it. So I went out and I bought a little zero turn and started cutting grass. I said, well, I'll do landscape. I didn't have a successful mowing business by any means. I had 6 or 7 people, and I started doing landscape. And I said, oh, okay, yeah, landscape. And I quickly learned after about 2 jobs that was not for me because I was not trying to break my back, shoveling gravels, planting trees, and just totally mispricing it. It broke me. I remember one job exactly we did almost 2 days of like 8 hours doing this, cutting in this whole new landscape thing. And I totally mispriced it. And I'm one of those guys, like if I told you a price and that's the price, I think by the time I paid the 2 people helping me and all the materials and everything, I came home with $25. And it was very disheartening. And I said, man, this is not for me. And it led those kind of jobs, because we only did a few landscaping jobs. It led into like, hey, can you wash our sidewalk? Can you do our shed? I was like, yeah, I can do that. And I said, I don't even have a pressure washer. And I had to call my dad, like, hey, I knew he had a gas powered pressure washer, and we'd wash, his house and his buildings. And so, yeah, I can do that. That's easy, is what I thought. And it was a little bitty Craftsman, like 2.5 gallons per minute. And I loaned it from him for like half a year. And I did, I think, 2 houses. I tried to do a metal roof, which was a terrible idea, and a bunch of sheds and sidewalks, and I went out and I got me a broom. I thought a surface cleaner was a broom. I said, give me one of them little round brooms, And that winter, I said, I like this, and people keep asking me to do this. I don't know of anybody else that pressure washes where I live at. So I thought I was the only one. And I spent all winter soaking in all the information that I could possibly find on YouTube. I mean, I was watching stuff where people had no idea looking back on what they were talking about. And sorry about that. And I don't know how many hundreds of hours I watched. I'm talking every day while I was at work. I was watching hours and hours on end. I probably watched 400 or 500 hours of YouTube. I'd come home and watch it. I'd lay in the bed and watch it. Oh, I thought I was crazy. I said, I'm going to start washing. I'm not going to do landscaping no more. So, here we are with this new mower that I went and bought. And she's like, you just bought a lawnmower and that didn't work out. Now you're going to start pressure washing. I said, yeah, I think I can do it. She thought I was crazy. So
That's so good.
that's how I got into pressure washing.
So you kind of fumbled in it from landscaping into some mistakes to, you know, I think I'm going to do this. Tell me about your favorite job. You know, once you started learning the business, do you remember one of your best jobs that you've had? Like how much you made, what kind of service it was?
Yeah. So I would say I don't- one of we have tended to navigate toward the higher end houses in our area. You know, I'm in rural Kentucky. Corbin, Kentucky's where I'm at. FT baby, let's go. You know, home of the Colonel. But anyway, we don't really have like a ton of those like city style cookie cutter houses. Everybody's on like got 5 foot between houses. Like we're out on acres of land, and a normal house here is probably like 2,500 square feet, 3,000 square feet. But I tend to navigate and do a lot of the 4,500, 6,000, 7,000 square feet houses. And so I'd say one of the best jobs I've enjoyed doing was getting ready for a family's reunion. And this was at a personal private residence. And we did almost 50,000 square feet of concrete at this person's house. Yeah, 50,000 square feet of concrete. There was like a 16 bay garage full of immaculate cars. We did their we did their barn dominium. It looks like what you would think as like a wedding venue, like stone floors, $1 million chandeliers inside, and we just kind of got the tour. And they were probably just the most down to earth people. They didn't walk around with an inspection glass looking at everything, and they were just like so happy that we were there and that we were doing that, so they didn't have to do it or find someone else had to do it. We just had the right equipment, we had the right gumption, and we handled everything that they needed handled in that aspect. And that was it was great because that also led me into cleaning a private golf course that they own, and so we stood to make around that was probably our biggest, even though it's 2 jobs in Central, but it was kind of one person, same thing, right? Right around $20,000 on that one invoice.
Well, from $20 to $25,000. That's the story to process.
Yeah.
Now you didn't start there. What year did you end up obtaining that customer?
So like I said, I think 2021 we started and did like half the year, and with washing once we were ready, and this was in 2023.
So within a couple of years, you were actually to the point of being able to land a $20,000 client.
Yeah. It was mind blowing. It was scary. It was scary for sure.
Did you ever think about quitting?
Yeah, I've thought about quitting. When you if you do anything long enough, you'll make a mistake, or maybe inadvertently make a mistake, not intentionally meaning to do that. But yeah, sometimes I've thought about quitting. I'll give you an example. One time I killed 6 koi fish by mistake. Yes, I know, 6. Fortunately for me, they were about 2 weeks old, and they were the cheap ones that you could get from Walmart. I felt so horrible because and that was just last year. So I made it, 4 years at that time, and never had, I'd got a bush or two, nothing that was really living, but I got the koi fish, and that made me feel so bad. It was an inexpensive mistake, but still yet. But no, the things that I feel like that had made me quit before is early on when the phone wasn't ringing and I didn't understand how to get the phone to ring. So I was like, man, no one's calling me. No one wants this service. And kind of would get down on myself. And I was like, but other people are doing it. So if other people are doing it, then I can do it too. And how do I make that happen? So
Let me ask you a question before we dig into how you made that happen. I think there's a lot of value that you're going to share as it relates to individuals that are also in your shoes in the stage of the game where they're like, man, I've been in this tree stand for 4 weeks now and I haven't seen no deer and I don't even know if they exist anymore. When you're questioning whether or not the phones are ever going to ring, do you ever wonder if that's a sign from God that he really doesn't want you to be inside this business?
no, I don't think that's a sign. I think more than anything, I think it's you know how it is, Josh, when you pray for patience and you've heard the elders like, oh, don't pray for patience. You'll get your tests. And it's never really what you think it's going to be. Like that, to me, that instance is like learning to be still and waiting on his time to provide.
Mm.
And just recently, I'll share this in the last couple weeks since we were in Nashville. And Nashville's generally slow for, I think, a lot of people, or not Nashville, but this July, August spell, it can get a little slow, especially if you're not prepared for it. And it always seems that I know it's coming. I've better prepared, but it had got slower than it was for me last year. So I was like, man, the phone's not ringing. This is not happening. It's coming. I kept telling myself, it's coming. Something's coming. We're making it happen. We're doing our posting. We're reaching out to people, doing our text blasts, stuff of that nature. And just out of nowhere, I got a random call, and it was from a smaller country hospital, but it was a decent sized building, and that gave me the opportunity to go out and do a demo and blow their minds away with the demo on this building. And it's looking very likely that we're going to get a decent contract on this hospital, and that just came through praying and patience and just being ready when the opportunity arrived.
Yeah, that's so good. So for somebody that's praying and trying to prepare the ground for their phones to ring, what is like one or two things that they can do to pray and prepare for the phones to ring?
What can they do? Well, be ready. The Lord tells us to be ready, be looking, to have your mindset, to have your equipment ready to go, have your uniform clean and crisp, and, just, you got to have all aspects of everything ready when the opportunity arises. And, if you're praying for that opportunity, when it comes, don't be afraid of it, because, God said he'd provide. And when the opportunity comes, you have to be able to take advantage of the opportunity, when it comes.
That reminds me of one of the prophets telling this young man to go out and look for the rain cloud, and went out several days, and it eventually showed up. I want to get into specifically, if I wanted my phones to ring, what is one thing that you would recommend that people can do to help their phones ring more?
Okay. Yeah. So one thing that you can do for sure is, and this is one thing that I did when I started. I started out of a busted up 96 Dodge Ram with the door latch on the inside of the door, Josh. I kid you not. Everyone laughs at me. It's ripped out. So when you shut it, it don't latch. The whole interior of the door part, it's gone. And I'm just country enough that the window rose up and down. I put a shed style lock on the outside of the door. So I slam the door shut, reach out and twist it and lock it. And I did my first half a year driving that truck. And I was doing $1 million houses in this truck, and no one cared. As long as I got out, I had a uniform on, I had a magnet on my truck, and I did the work. But what you can do to get the phone, what I'm getting at is, I had a simple, like $40, $50 magnet set on my truck, something really cheap to do. I didn't have it wrapped. And I went out and I drove that truck everywhere I went with my equipment on the truck, mounted. I mean, it wasn't even nice equipment. And I would go out and I would do like a sidewalk for free or do a driveway for free. And in return, I'd say, hey, do you care to share us on social media? Would you leave us a 5-star review? And I was really, really hard up on getting people to leave me 5-star reviews. Well, I don't know if I say hard up, but I was adamant about getting those. And I noticed that once I got to like that 15 to 20 mark on the Google reviews, I started getting phone calls because when people were searching, I was showing up in those areas. So I think one way to get your phone ringing is be out working, even if you might have to do some small jobs for free. If someone's got a shed, wash the shed for free, because that $50 to $100 shed that you would tack on or add on something small, don't go out. I mean, maybe if it's a close friend or someone influential, maybe wash their house for free. That way they can share it and show your work, and you've got before and after photos. But you have to have some movement in order for some movement to come for you.
That's good. That's great advice. And I'm going to wrap up with asking you a question about a hard truth. If you could go back and give your past self one brutally honest warning about the business, what would it be?
Discipline. It would be discipline, and stay in discipline. When the phone rings, you answer it. When the estimate comes in, you reply. When someone asks for an estimate out in person, don't take days to get to it, because what I've learned is, especially here in the country, we get a lot of people like, yeah, no, we just want, when you can get to it, get us this. And sometimes you can think, well, they're not in really any hurry because they said, well, when you get time, get to it. But really, what they mean is, hey, in the next day or two, when you get time, not in the next week or two, or not in the next month or two. And I would think one hard truth to me is starting out initially, and that even when you're not doing a lot of work, is having a system as easy as a CRM to help you keep up with those things, so that it makes it easier on you to follow up with everyone.
Yeah, when someone may not be familiar with the CRM, they haven't started their business yet, they're thinking about the pressure washing business, would you help somebody understand what you use before you get a CRM and then what a CRM does for you? Do you remember the days before you got a CRM?
Yeah, I had just a little sheet of paper, and you could, napkin, man. I was a napkin guy. I'd write it down on a napkin on my hand. I'd write it down on whatever I could get it on, sticky note, and those things gets misplaced. I mean, when you ain't got a lot of them, they don't. But when you start getting notebooks full of stuff, and you're setting this notebook over here, and you're like, okay, who did I call? What did I do? And it is so disorganized. You don't even realize how disorganized it is until you get organized. And so making the jump to a CRM, I would say, even right when you start, even if you get a free version of one, or you get one that is a lower cost tier, $20, $30 a month, it's a well $20 or $30 a month. And the aspect that I think of, one house wash is going to kind of just about cover that for the entire year, especially if you get a cheaper one. So sometimes I like to think about things in the cost of it as a house wash. Well, what's that? A house wash. That'll cost me a house wash or something like that. It's a trade. I guess I think in the barter system sometimes.
And which CRM do you use?
I currently use Mark 8. It wasn't the first one that I used. It was the first one that I used that was a paid version. And I will even go as far as saying I used another one that was not, it was more geared in the lawn care thing, because it was free. I picked it up when it's free. And it was not as nice as the Marquette. Now I've never used anything else, so I can't compare it to anything else other than it's always done everything that I've needed it to do. And I'm sure it does more than I even know that it can do.
Jeremy, I want to thank you for being a guest on our podcast. You're going to be coming back. We're going to get into a little bit of what it looks like to be, a minister in the marketplace, or to love people that are in your community. And my takeaway from our conversation today is that you don't have to have a perfect plan. You kind of have to just start moving forward. And as you move forward, you'll find your little slot. And so you might start with landscaping, you might start with pressure washing, but the next thing you know, it might be outdoor lighting, it might be Christmas lights, it might be electrical work. But I appreciate you being a guest, sharing your story. And until next time, peace. As promised, that was an incredible interview on a dude who started a side hustle and scaled it into a full-size business in the trades, where he's not only able to provide for himself, he's also able to provide for others. And as promised, I want to invite you to the top 20 trades that you can start inside of your city. Simply go to asyougo.network, sign in, and then sign up for Start and Scale a Side Hustle seminar. It's really more like a live event, but we'll end up having a conversation and I'll show you what it takes to start and scale a different side hustle. We'll see you.